Okay, I want to wish everyone a good day and on this lovely sunshiny Wednesday, and welcome everybody to the Hadassah Lavona chapter, um, Ladies of Learning of Tanakh, and we are going to be learning chapter 26 of Sefer Shmuel. We're going to review chapter 25. And we hope everybody is well and safe. So, in the meantime, uh, is there anybody who can tell me what we learned last week that was hopefully very meaningful for everybody in chapter 25? There were two things that were of great consequence. Does
Mhm.
anyone remember?
Oh, the death of Shmuel, who
Right?
was the last of the prophets, and David meeting Abigail and his marriage to her.
Right?
And also there, it's interesting because there's no real details of Shmuel's death that are listed there. Uh,
Right.
those are some things that I wrote.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. Very good. Shmuel in chapter 25 was really the last of the shoftim of the judges. He was like a combination prophet and judge. And so it's interesting that nobody said anything last week about, well, if Shmuel dies on chapter 25,
How do you get book two?
how did we get the rest of the book and into and say Sefer Aleph, the second half? And the answer is that clearly someone else wrote it, and it's the Mefarshim are not sure whether it was Natan, who we will learn about shortly, or whether it was God. God, both of them were prophets, and we will learn about them and in Sefer Shmuel. So, but they do pick up the pen and continue writing, and give and sharing with us the many exploits and adventures and lessons in Tanakh of David and his lifetime in the rest of the book of Shmuel. Now, the interesting thing is when Shmuel dies, which is the end of an era, we hear very very little about his death. It is not recalled. The only thing we know is that everybody mourned him, everybody. And like Moshe Rabbeinu, where the people were very, very sad about his death, and they mourn all the people of Bnei Israel mourn Moshe, all the people of this era, which is after the Shoftim, mourn Shmuel. So we also know that Shmuel's work was done. Even though he dies at age 52, at a very early age, we know that his work as the kingmaker, that's exactly what he was. He was the kingmaker. He anoints the first two kings of Israel. And he is reluctant, as we learned at the very beginning, to actually anoint a king. He wanted, he, meaning Shmuel, said to God, Hashem, to God, I'm so sorry, God. I don't want to anoint anyone. Aren't I good enough? Aren't as a prophet, as a judge, aren't I the one who travels all over the country, all over the to meet with people? I don't sit under my palm tree and wait for people to come. Aren't I doing a good enough job? And God says, "Of course you are." God says, "It's not you, Shmuel. It's me. God is saying to Shmuel that the people are not believing in God and God's Torah and all of his laws, and it's really they've forsaken God, not they've forsaken Shmuel. Shmuel was a man of the people, and people related to him. So for me, when I read that he dies, people mourned him, and then David gets up and goes to the wilderness, perhaps in sadness, or perhaps just because he was done being sad. I feel like there's a void here, and not really um praising or talking more about Shmuel. But I suppose that no matter if you're a prophet or a judge or a Joe Schmo, you come into this world, you go out of this world, and hopefully you leave some kind of a legacy, and you leave something behind that for a while your children, grandchildren will remember you by. And that, I guess that's it. Oh, it's kind of sad. Especially, as we get older, we think about, well, are they just going to go for the bank account? Is that all there is? So, so, it sort of pains my heart a little bit, but I feel for Shmuel, but okay. Anyway, so when we move on after in chapter 25 of Shmuel's death, we come across the story of Naval and David, the shearing, and David whose men have gone to help Naval during the shearing of the sheep and his flock. And David wants to have his men paid for it, and Naval doesn't want to pay for it. And David is ready to fly off the handle and just slaughter the whole group. And the truth of the matter is, um, one of Naval's workers tells Abigail, his wife, what's about to happen, and Abigail comes laden with foodstuffs and supplies and gifts to David, and she talks the impulsiveness out of and the recklessness out of David. She is the one who impresses David with her wisdom, with uh, her ability to calm him down and to show him that his behavior really is inappropriate, because she says this is not what a king is supposed to do, and this will stain your reputation and your future as you go into kingship. She was considered one of the female prophetesses, and she also um, saves David from himself, because and he the beauty of this is that his impulsiveness to go and kill Naval and all the others is soothed by her words, because one, she mentions Hashem over and over. She subjugates herself when she speaks to him, and she calls him my Lord, I'm your servant. And she says this many, many times to get his attention. And she offers advice on in three areas. One is to show restraint. Two is to show responsibility. Um, that, and then three is that immediate revenge is not worth the sacrifice for long-term integrity. And these three pieces of advice make sense to David, and he is definitely rescued by her from himself. And David uh, doesn't lose his honor by acting impulsively. He actually earns his honor by listening to someone and to this woman. And she makes a big difference in his life. And we will learn that in chapter 26. Now, I want to just give you a little bit information that I didn't give you last week. She actually gives David a son that we learn about in Sefer Shmuel Bet, and his name was Kiliav, uh, and we'll learn more about that. And once we learn about her giving him a son, we don't hear anything else about her in the rest of Tanakh. But her influence over him is quite significant, and that's what we see in chapter 26. So, um, we're going to go to chapter 26 and we're going to read it, and we're going to see first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the chapter so that you'll understand what we're going to be doing here. So chapter 26 is describes another opportunity that David has to kill Shaul. It's another story, just like the story in 24, where David cuts the corner of Shaul's robe. This is is another story of an opportunity that David has to eliminate his enemy Shaul. And we'll find out whether he does or doesn't do. But if we understand that he has listened to Abigail and her advice about killing, and that Hashem will do your battles for you, David. She says to him, Hashem will do your battles. You do not have to go out and kill. You have to show restraint, and you have to show that you believe that God will protect you. And this resonates with him. This is something that he holds on to as we see going into chapter 26. So, chapter 24 and 26 are bridged by 25, in which we have Abigail on the scene giving David excellent advice, and her speech about what the future king looks like and what he needs to do to earn the respect and honor of the people of Israel. And he holds on to that as we go into this chapter 26. And we will see how her words have changed him and how he now handles meeting Shaul in a play for the second time, where he has the opportunity to kill Shaul. Now, since we have this bridge chapter, we have to think of 24, 25, 26 as as like a trilogy, because all three are connected in some way. And they're connected because two of the chapters are opportunities for David to kill Shaul, and he doesn't. And he believes very deeply that he does not have the right to touch or harm Shaul because he was anointed by God. And David's connection to Hashem is so amazingly strong that even in the worst of times where his enemy Shaul is doing terrible things to him, he still holds on to that honor that he has for and respect for God, that God anointed this man. There must have been a reason, and he will respect that. So it's very important that in these are like tests. First of all, in chapter 24, when Shaul goes into the cave to use the bathroom, and the men of David are in that cave hiding, and he cuts off the corner of Shaul's garment. Shaul is really coming to where David is. In chapter 26, David is going to where Shaul is, has the opportunity to kill him, but doesn't. And we'll see what happens there. Now, what we're going to do is read the chapter 26, and the theme is for David here is that he shouldn't take bold revenge himself. He needs to allow God to play out this story. And he remembers what Abigail has told him. Don't shed blood for yourself. God will fight your battles. That is the message, one of the messages that she gives to him. You don't have to do this, David. You need to be a good boy and let your belief and faith in God prevail. So these are very strong words, and David takes them to heart, and he himself internalizes Abigail's words. And let's take a look at the chapter. Okay. Now let's see. All right. All right. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes.
Everybody can see that's chapter 26.
Mhm.
This is the third chapter, sort of like in this trilogy of chapters. 24, David could have killed Shaul in the cave, but he doesn't. 25, he learns about restraint and marries Abigail, and he also marries another woman,
Mhm.
Achinoam.
Mhm.
And he also will be informed that Michal, his first wife, Shaul's daughter, is given to someone else in marriage. Um, okay, so do we have Carol? Let's see. Karen,
Yeah.
would you like to read?
Okay. And the Ziphites came to Shaul to Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding in the hill of Hachilah before the desolate wasteland?" And Shaul arose and descended to the desert of Ziph, and with him were 3,000 picked men to seek David in the desert of Ziph.
Okay,
And
so let's stop right here. Here we are introduced to once again, we've heard from the Ziphites before. they've kind of shown themselves to be like tattletalers, you know.
Yeah.
They go to Shaul and go, did you hear that David is down in the wilderness of Ziph and Chachila? Uh, did you hear this? They're always telling. And one of the commentaries that I read said that the Ziphites do not want to be perceived like the priests of Nov. What happened to the priests of Nov when they helped David?
They were killed.
They were
Yeah.
all slaughtered. The entire
Right.
group, except for one, Aviatar, was killed. They were all killed for helping David. These were the Kohanim in the city of Nov, where the Mishkan was at that time. So the Ziphites don't want to be considered aiding and abetting David. They want to be on the side of the king because they know this king is a little unstable. So, okay, so now that you know why they're telling them, the king, where David is, let's find out what's going to happen here. And I think I'll let you read the whole story and then we'll go into detail. Go ahead.
And Shaul encamped in the hill of Hachilah, which is before the desolate wasteland by the road. And David was staying in the desert, and it appeared to him that Shaul had come after him to the desert. And David sent spies, and he learned that Shaul had surely come. And David rose and came to the place where Shaul had encamped. And David saw the place where Shaul lay, and Avner, the son of Ner, the commander of his army. And Shaul was lying within the barricade, and the people were encamped around him. And David spoke up and said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Avishai the son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, saying, who will go down with me to Shaul to the camp? And Avishai said, I shall go down with you. And David and Avishai came to the people by night, and behold, Shaul was lying asleep within the barricade with his spear thrust into the ground at his head, and Avner and the people were lying around him. And Avishai said to David, today God has delivered your enemy into your hand. Now let me strike him now with the spear to the ground with one stroke, and I shall not repeat this to him. And David said to Avishai, do not destroy him, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be accounted guiltless? And
Okay,
David said,
do you see what's going on here?
Yeah.
David goes into the camp where everybody is sleeping, okay? And we're going to read that the reason everyone was sleeping a deep sleep is because of Hashem. He caused a deep sleep to fall over the entire camp. So David and this Abishai, who volunteers to go with him, walk in without any trouble. And Avishai, who does he sound like?
the old David.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. The old David who'd be ready to kill him. But David shows restraint. Okay. Abigail's sitting on his little right shoulder saying, no, 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 no. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
And David said, as the Lord lives, but the Lord will smite him, or his day will come and he will die, or he will go down to war and perish.
See, these are the words that Abigail said.
Mm.
God will do your battle. This is exactly what Abigail said to David, and David is repeating it to Abishai. Do you see it's so interesting here that, he really internalizes what she said to him.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Far be it for me from the Lord to stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. And now take now the spear which is at his head and the jug of water, and let us go away. And David took the spear and the jug of water from near Shaul's head, and they went away. And no one saw, and no one knew, and no one awakened, for they were all asleep because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen upon them. And David crossed to the other side and stood on the mountain peak from afar. The space between them was great. And David called to the people and to Avner, the son of Ner, saying, "Will you not answer, Avner?" And Avner answered and said, "Who are you who have called to the king?" And David said to Avner, "Are you not a valiant man? And who is like you in Israel? And why did you not guard your lord the king? For one of the people came to destroy the king, your lord. This thing which you have done is not good. As the Lord lives, you are worthy of death, for you did not keep watch over your Lord, over the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the jug of water which was at his head." And Shaul recognized David's voice and said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And David said, "It is my voice, my lord, O king." And he said, "Why does my lord pursue his servant? For what have I done? And what evil is in my hand? And now let my lord the king hear his servant's word. If the Lord has incited you against me, he will accept an offering. But if the sons of man, cursed be they before the Lord, for they have driven me today from cleaving to the Lord's heritage, saying, 'Go worship other gods.' And now let my blood fall to the ground, away from the face of the Lord. For the king of Israel has gone out to seek a flea, as a partridge hunts in the mountains." And Shaul said, "I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I shall harm you no more, because my life was precious in your eyes this day. Behold, I have acted foolishly, and have erred exceedingly." And David answered and said, "Behold the king's spear. Now let one of the youths come over and take it. And the Lord will repay every man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered you today into my hand, and I would not stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. And behold, as your life was precious this day in my eyes, so shall my life be precious in the eyes of the Lord, and he shall save me from every distress." And Shaul said to David, "Blessed be you, my son David. You shall both do great things, and you shall prevail." And David went on his way, and Shaul returned to his place.
Okay.
Wow, that's
What does
amazing.
this sound like to you guys? What is it? What does it sound like?
Well, they made amends together, the two,
Okay.
big amends.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. What else?
I mean, Shaul did not become crazy. It seems like
Well, he had a rational moment.
yeah,
Okay. He yeah, he was okay. Well, in both chapter, well, we're going to go back and forth. We're going to learn about what happened in both chapters. But what we find here is that he does have rational moments when he talks to David, and he refers to him as his son, and David refers to him as his father. So there is a I wouldn't say there's a love-hate relationship, because David does not hate him. He's just perplexed as to why he's being chased like this. And he's not he doesn't really know that the spirit of Hashem has left Shaul. I think that David doesn't understand this, and that's why he says, why are you chasing a flea? You know, everyone knows that a flea is so insignificant. A little flea, you can't even see a flea. So in the scheme of things, it's so not important. So David wants to know, why are you chasing a flea when you have a whole forest full that you could be, chasing after. But what we learn here is that the relationship they have is based on the fact that Shaul is afraid. Shaul is a man who is scared. He is afraid. He has lost a connection to God. He and now Shmuel has left this earth, and Shmuel was the one who anointed him. And for all the things that Shmuel anointed him, and for all the things that Shaul did and was disapproved by Shmuel, Shmuel had some type of relationship with Shaul, and I think that Shaul probably felt that as long as Shmuel was around, maybe there was a chance of reconciliation. Maybe there was a chance of being a better person, a better king. We're not sure what he really was thinking, but here we find that he's trying to make peace and restore a relationship with David, and we'll see that that doesn't last so long. Now I'm going to show you some very interesting things in this text. I let Karen read the whole thing without really speaking about it, but now we're going to go to um, what I have here. This is from the Beit Midrash in Gush Etzion, this comparison of chapter 24 text and 26 text, because what we find is these two stories, 24 in the cave and 26 in the encampment of Shaul, are very, very similar, and it's very interesting. So, let's see. Do I have a reader here? Anybody want to read?
I'll
Speak.
do it, Rhonda.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The two stories open in similar fashion, with the Ziphites informing Shaul about David's location.
Okay, so I told you that they were kind of like the tattletalers of the time. They came because they want to protect themselves. So that twice this happened. So here's okay, and
And it came,
here's the
yeah.
text in both situations. Go ahead.
And it came to pass when Shaul was returned from following the Plishtim that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi.
All right, so they tell him when he's in Engedi. That was in chapter 24. Now this is, go ahead and read 26.
Okay. And the Ziphites came unto Shaul in Giva, saying, Does not David hide himself in the hills of Shachiliah, which is before Yishimon?
Okay, so here
No,
is
it's two.
very similar. Okay, very, very
Okay.
similar. All right, now let's
In
go to the
Yeah.
second similarity.
Okay. In both chapters, Shaul sets out in pursuit of David with an identical force, and his objective is described in parallel fashion. In 24, then Shaul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And 26, when Shaul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. Wow.
Okay.
Same number.
Same
Right,
thing.
right. Same thing going on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
In both cases, a situation arises in which David has the opportunity to cause harm to Shaul, and Shaul is completely unaware that he is in danger. In 24, and there was a cave, and Shaul went in to cover his feet. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. Then David arose. And 26, and David arose and came to the place where Shaul had pitched.
Okay. So here's the in 24, Shaul is in a cave going to the bathroom, and 26, he's sound asleep, in a deep sleep that God had spread over all the encampment. Okay. So it shows the vulnerability of Shaul. Okay.
And 20 and the fourth thing is, in both cases, David's men turn to him and say that God has afforded him the opportunity to strike at his enemy. And 24, and the men of David said unto him, Behold the day in which the Lord has said unto you, Behold, I will deliver your enemy into your hands, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good for you. And in 26, then said Abishai to David, God has delivered up your enemy into your hand this day. Now, therefore, let me smite him. I pray you with the spear to the earth at one stroke, and I will not smite him the second time.
Wow.
Okay. So
Mhm,
so both times the men or the one
mhm,
man who go Avishai who goes with David the second time, they're ready to get rid of Shaul. And the
mhm,
interesting thing is that the people of Israel are not clamoring for Shaul's dethroning. They're very happy with Shaul because don't forget, Shaul has appointed David to do all the army work. Shaul appoints David to be his general in charge of the entire military. And
mhm,
David is doing a fine job.
mhm,
So why would the people want to get rid of Shaul when he's got a great military
Right.
and they feel pretty protected? So
mhm,
they're not clamoring for Shaul to be
Ah, yeah.
deposed here. They're very okay. They're beseder, and they don't follow the king day by day like this.
mhm,
This story is telling. They're not aware so much of what's going on. So for them, the people think Shaul is just dandy, that he's
mhm,
fine. So it's very interesting. And don't forget, at this point, both the men and Avishai are bloodthirsty. They're ready to do David's dirty work for him.
mhm.
But interestingly enough, in chapter 26, what is it that David takes from the camp of Shaul? What are the two items?
The spear
Here.
and the water, right?
And the jug of water. Now,
Mhm.
how many times do we hear about a spear in that we've read so far in Shmuel? What does this spear kind of represent? Where do we hear this?
Forgot.
It represents power because he took Goliath's spear.
Okay, okay. So the first time we hear about a
Mhm,
spear, and it's a big one, is when David goes out to battle Goliath.
mhm,
And that spear is huge and
mhm.
heavy, and certainly can kill a person. Now, also we know from the stories is that who is playing music for to soothe
David.
Shaul? David is playing the harp and trying to
Right.
soothe David. And what happens twice? Twice. What do we learn? That Shaul throws his spear at David while he's playing
Right.
music.
Mhm.
And it's not just a oops, I'm sorry, I lost control of my spear. He knows that there's something up with this guy David. He hasn't been told directly that David's going to be the next king, but he
Right.
suspects that with all the military success that David has, that God is really on this guy's side and he's looking out for this little squirt because he's little. So Shaul was like huge. He said they said when they anointed him, he was head and shoulders above all the rest, both in stature and in learning. And here we find that Shaul is being diminished while this little guy who goes out to fight Goliath is growing in stature amongst the people. And what do they say? There goes Shaul who kills the thousands, but there goes David who kills the tens of thousands. So, how do you think that makes Shaul feel? Kind of like second rate.
Mm.
But this spear that David takes is very important. He takes away the object of what Shaul has tried to use to kill him over and over again. The cruse of water, the jug of water. We could talk about that.
That thirst, that they
Not
would get
only right,
thirsty.
right. Not only is it a symbol of something that they need in the desert,
Right,
but also water is always compared to Torah.
right,
So, whether or not that is the symbol of the water at this particular point, we're not really sure, but I do know that the spear is very significant.
right,
So, and David says in the story, I could have killed you, but I didn't.
right.
Okay. So let's continue to see what else, what other
Okay.
similarities.
5. In both cases, David vigorously rejects the proposal to strike Shaul, whom he describes as God's anointed. In 24, he said unto his men, the Lord forbid it to me that I should do this thing unto my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put forth my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed. And in 26, and David said to Abishai, destroy him not, for who can put forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? The Lord forbid it to me that I should put forth my hand against the Lord's anointed.
Right. So the David has tremendous respect that God has chosen. God, he knows God has chosen him. David knows that, and he knows that God chose Shaul, and he is not going to do what to Shaul what his men are clamoring for him to do.
Mhm.
And at this point, we know that this is very much an effect, possibly, of the speech that Abigail gives to him. Okay,
Mhm.
let's.
In both stories, David takes something from Shaul. In 24, and he cut off the skirt of
Robe.
Shaul's robe privily. In 26, so David took the spear and the cruse of water from Shaul's head.
Okay. So while I guess at privy is, when he
Oh,
was going to the bathroom, he
mhm,
clips it, and we learned that he felt terrible about cutting off that corner. Why? Because of the tzitzit that
mhm,
he he um he did something to the garment that Shaul was wearing that rendered it not holy any longer, and
mhm,
he
mhm.
felt terrible about that. That was one of the things that made him feel awful.
It,
So,
is that his way of saying, I could have killed you, but I only did this to you? Is this close? Or was he saying that in a way to him?
when
And when he cuts off part of the robe,
yeah,
like I,
yeah, yeah, of
yeah,
course, that's
yeah,
I could have killed you,
hmm,
but I didn't, because
right,
you're the
hmm,
anointed one. You were
hmm,
anointed by Shmuel,
hmm,
at God's request.
hmm,
So
hmm,
yeah, it's for
yeah,
sure. And he says it again, when he's standing on the mountain across from
hmm,
the camp of where Shaul is encamped. He says,
hmm,
"Are you missing anything over there? You want to take a
hmm,
look in your tent, Shaul? Do you not see your spear and your jug of water that was at your head? I could have killed you. I could have done terrible things over there, but I didn't." And, of course, Shaul once again has a conversation. You're right, my son. You're right. I'll do better. I love you, blah, blah, blah. And we're not so sure that he can really um, make good on his promises to David, because
Right.
he's not able when he is, in his depressive state of mind. All right, let's continue.
okay. At this,
There's more to
there's more.
this. Are you finding that it's interesting that
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
the two
Yes.
stories are bridged by Abigail. And
Yeah.
okay, so go ahead.
Okay. At this point, David turns to Shaul in both cases and asks him why he is chasing after him. In both cases, David argues that what he took from Shaul proves that he has no intention of causing him any harm. And in 24, and David said to Shaul, why do you listen to men's words, saying, behold, David seeks your hurt. Behold, this day your eyes have seen how that the Lord had delivered you today into my hand in the cave, and some bade me kill you, but my eyes spared you. And I said, I will not put forth my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of your robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of your robe and killed you not. Know you and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand, and I have not sinned against you, though you lay wait for my soul to take it.
See, here he refers,
Right.
right? My father, moreover, my father,
Yeah.
look, I could have killed you. You were right there. I could have disposed of you, and I didn't. My men were egging me on to do so, but I didn't. And then
Okay, in 26, and he said, why does my Lord pursue after his servant? For what have I done, or what evil is in my hand? Now, therefore, I pray you, let my Lord the king hear the words of his servant. If it be the Lord that has stirred you up against me, let him accept an offering. Be if it be, but if it be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord. And David answered and said, behold the king's spear, and the Lord will render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. For as much as the Lord delivered you into my hand today, and I would not put forth my hand against the Lord's anointed.
okay. So, both times he explains this, he's very passionate about this and very sincere about it.
Uh-huh.
And this is what makes him great,
Mm-hmm.
because of his belief in God,
Right.
because he is willing to respect somebody, even his enemy. He is also very, very connected to family, to the people. In every sense, this is what the things that he's going through now are like the tests that prior to becoming king. Okay.
Okay, in 8, in the two cases, Shaul responds to David's words in similar fashion. In 24, and it came to pass when David had made an end to speaking these words unto Shaul, that Shaul said, is this your voice, my son David? And in 26, and Shaul knew David's voice and said, is this your voice, my son? Both said, my son David.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
look, as far as he's concerned, he married his daughter, so for the time being, while he's lucid, he calls him his son. But then he takes his wife away from him, so okay. We're
And now,
I'm only your father temporarily, so
Right.
don't get too close to me, All right. So what else?
okay,
There's two more things.
in both cases, David turns to Shaul and compares himself to a flea. And 24, after whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? And in 24, for the king of Israel is come out to seek a single flea, as when one hunts a partridge in the mountains.
Right. So because
Impossible.
that's a flea so insignificant, that's
Significant.
probably what he could think of to
Mhm.
okay. And then the
Okay.
last
Okay,
one.
to conclude the parallels, note that in both chapters, David recognizes in the end that David is right. In 24, he said to David, you are more righteous than I, for you have rendered unto me good, whereas I have rendered unto you evil. And you have declared this day how you have dealt well with me, for as much as when the Lord had delivered me up into your hand, you did not kill me. And in 26, Then said Shaul, I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I will no more do you harm, because my life was precious in your eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool and erred exceedingly.
Okay, so these are the
Mhm.
comparisons between chapters 24 and 26, and they're very, very interesting to show how Shaul reacts to David and David reacts to Shaul. And I think that we can see growth and change in David,
Mhm.
but unfortunately, we don't see real
No.
change. We hear
Mhm.
words, but we don't hear real change in
Inshallah.
Shaul.
Right.
Mhm.
So here we are. We're left at the end of this chapter with the same king, with the same issues, etc. And David trusts him, so he continues to trust in him and trust God to make the right decisions for David. So um this is what I think is so interesting about these two chapters. If we didn't really look at them as a threesome, a trilogy, a set, then they would just be stories.
Right.
It would just be okay. Well, it happened again. Oh, that's nice. All right, but the fact that what I'm seeing here is this whole threesome becomes critical to
Mhm.
us understanding how David changes and grows and how he's influenced, and he accepts the influence of others. And I think this is very, very important. At this point, do you have any questions before we continue?
Yeah, I've been thinking as all who've been studying this, we keep talking about, it talks a lot about Hashem delivering the enemy into his hands.
Right.
And in general, like, how are we supposed to know, if Hashem brings somebody to an enemy to us, how do we know when we're supposed to kill them or let them live? On the one hand, we learn about Amalek and how we didn't destroy, the last one, and
Right.
caused us a thorn in our, more than a thorn on our side for all these years. So when are we supposed to, like, act on it, and when are we supposed to let things go? To me, it's like a big dilemma. And how do we know what Hashem really wants us to do? I know that's a tough question, Rhonda. Sorry. But it's like been in my mind while we've been reading this.
Uh, okay. That's a good question. Does
Mhm.
anyone have an answer? Um, how do we know? Well, I'll regal echad on,
I'm right, on one
okay,
leg.
because I wasn't given this question
Right.
before
Sorry.
class so that I could
Because it just came
ponder
up
the
in my brain.
significance of all of it. Um,
We can let you answer next week.
well, let's see if I'll answer what I think, and then
Mhm.
next week I'll see if my answer has changed. Okay, you can ask it again. Well, let's take a look. You're asking, how do we know when it's time to take action against somebody,
Mhm. Mhm.
or when it's up to God, and when
Mhm.
the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
Well, my immediate response, the first thing I would think of
Mhm.
is if Hashem tells us to do something.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So he
Mhm.
says, you destroy all the Amalekites. He tells us
Mhm.
nothing, nothing should be left behind. No women, no children, no dogs, no cattle, no nothing,
Mhm.
nothing. So we know that is a
Mhm. A
command.
given. Mhm.
Okay. God hasn't said one word about uh, eliminating Shaul to David. Um, and I think that David is taking these challenges in stride because he was anointed and he knows
Mhm.
the outcome. He knows the end of the story. He read the last page of the book. So he knows this end, what's the end part. And in order to get to that end part, he knows what he has to do and what he can't do. That's and in addition to what he knows, he also has tremendous bitachon. He has amazing amuna, and I think that that's um, something that I know I always have to work on as a human being, as a person, and uh, I think everybody has to work on those kinds of things. Now, if you take a situation, we could take the situation in Iran. How do you know when to
Mhm.
kill the Ayatollah and when not to? Certainly,
Mhm.
at this point in that conflict, Trump is playing the role of when to do it and when not to do it, and and Israel may have a different opinion about what to do and what not to do. We haven't gotten, at least I haven't been receiving any messages from Hashem of what to do. And, we have to leave it to people who have more information than we do. So, there isn't a real answer except that if God tells us to do something, then we must do it. If God doesn't tell us, and He gives us leaders that tell us to do something, then we have to, we have, I believe, we have to go with those leaders if they're trusted leaders. Um, and then there's false leaders, people
Mhm.
who are ready
Right.
to jump the gun, and say, "Okay, let's go. Let's kill that guy, let's do that." So that it's like a rock in a hard place.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of issues that have to be weighed and have to be thought about. But I think that the most important thing is that we have to be faithful to God and faithful to our community and our people, and trust that trust that our leaders, or that we have educated decisions.
Mhm.
That's difficult. That's
Mhm.
big. That's big, and it's difficult. um I do have one person who listens to these recordings, and she is very, very bright lady, very educated, and I'm sure she will come up with an answer for us. Uh, you hear that, Chantal? Taria, Taria Chantal. Uh, so maybe she will give us an answer of when we
Mhm.
are supposed to do the things we're not sure, what we're.
Mhm.
Oh, I mean, I that's the best I can give you right now. I don't know if that
Okay. Thank
answers your
you. No,
question.
I would like I would like to
Yeah,
hear more on the subject in the
right.
future. I think, only because, God doesn't speak to us in these modern days.
He
And
does.
he,
The thing
he
is,
does,
he
but
does.
yeah,
He
yeah.
does. We
Mhm.
don't listen.
Right.
That's the
Right.
thing. I think God does speak to us many, many
Hmm.
times, but I think we're
Hmm.
bombarded so many times with so much noise in our lives.
Hmm.
I mean, there really is a lot of extraneous noise and
It's so
stuff is
true.
that we don't even, and it's junk. It's just junk, but we don't really listen to the real stuff. And
Hmm.
and I think that in some of those, I mean, I really think that we do get messages, and I think we do get information, but we're not listening because we're so absorbed with the junk. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's where my take on that one.
Hmm.
Uh, so okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? All of those people who I don't see your face, anybody have something to say? Come on. Linda, I haven't heard
Well,
from you.
I was thinking, no, to me, David has the most amuna that I've heard with all the people that we study. He seems to his faith in Hashem is above and beyond. It just is.
Okay.
Because it's normal to want to kill somebody who is chasing you to kill you. It's a normal reaction.
Right.
It's not something that you even have to think about. If he's coming to get you, you got to get him first. But
Yeah.
the fact that he is so entrenched in his faith in God, it's unbelievable. It's like not it's almost seems like it's not human. He seems like above us all. What could I tell you? His faith is unbelievable. I
Right.
mean, it
Right.
just is.
Right.
Rhonda,
Yeah.
when you read Tehillim, you realize how much his faith is. And
Right.
I happen to 100% agree with you that Hashem talks to us every day and that we do not listen.
Right.
And we don't understand that he's talking to us.
Right. Right. I think we need to filter out the junk of the stuff out there that we hear on the computer and on the TV and on the
Right.
radio and on the this and and lashon hara and get all over the place and misinformation and everything. And listen, this reminds me of listening for that still small voice, that voice that was supposed to speak to Elisha and Eliyahu in the cave, the voice of God. It's not the loudest voice. It's not the most thunderous voice. It's that still, calm, very collected, rational voice of Hashem that we do hear. And we need to listen to that voice because it's very important. And if when we turn off everything,
I
the
think
phone,
I
the
I think our
phone and the TV, when we turn everything off, and even when we turn off our people and just sit, that people meditate, people think, people consider things, we'll hear the voice of God. I really believe we will.
I think that a lot of our chaylim that are out there and you know are spending nights alone and whatever, I think they do hear it
I'm sure they do.
because that's why they get so much faith in doing what they're doing.
Exactly. That's
Right.
very true. Right.
I think so because they're confronting their own lives, their own souls, their own destiny, and right out in those, under the stars, out in those horrible conditions. If you don't have faith and you don't listen for God's voice, it's very challenging. So, okay, so I think that next week we're going to move on to chapter 27, um, and see where all of this takes us and what else we will learn about David. But don't forget, I'd like to leave you with some parting words. That don't forget, that we are learning about this young, and he is young, David at this point, but there is no other person other than Moshe Rabbeinu, who is a speaker for Hashem, that when we go into the Beit Knesset, when we pull out our book of Tehillim, when we read various Haftorah, when we daven on any Chag, any time we are davening, we are always speaking the words of David Hamelech. Among all the others, we are always using his words. After how many thousands of years, his words ring true today as blessed and as wise as they did the day he put his quill to the parchment. And so we are really watching someone very special in the making. And I think that from each lesson, each chapter, we have to take away from that chapter something that we learned, that he learned, which I think is very, very important. And we need to grow as David grew in each and every chapter. And I think that it will make us stronger, and perhaps it will give us more faith as we do. So
Let me just
have a
say
good
one.
week. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Go
just
ahead.
briefly, in Tehillim,
Up
the
mute.
in the Tehillim, it's interesting